Hi, I'm Pam Fox at pamfox.org, and we're streaming live on YouTube into the Plantar Reflux Facebook group. For the last month and a half, we've been going through my new cookbook, Plantar Reflux, which can be found on Amazon. This is what it looks like. Plantar Reflux. It might be backwards. Well, I'm streaming, let's see, I'm on YouTube, so it might not be backwards. But that's the cookbook, and it's all plant-based recipes for people with reflux. It eliminates, I've got my griddle on right here, so I'm standing back a little bit today, but it eliminates common triggers. The recipes eliminate common triggers or trigger ingredients for people with reflux. So we've been going through the cookbook, and this week we're in chapter 13. Let me bring that up really quick. And I'm actually going to be making banana pancakes, which is a really quick, filling, simple, affordable. It's a great, quick, and easy, satisfying meal. Now, these pancakes might not taste like the pancakes that you're used to. They're a little bit different. But that's the way it goes with much of plant-based eating. It might be a little different, but it's still very delicious. So we're going to be making the banana oat pancakes. So let's go ahead and throw those together, and then we're going to talk a little bit in chapter 13 about how eating plant-based doesn't have to be a sacrifice at all. You can accommodate and facilitate. You can change up recipes to be plant-based, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the ways that I do that. So let's go ahead and throw this together. So this is really quick and easy. It's just one ripe banana, and I just throw everything into my Vitamix or your blender, your high-speed blender. We're going to be throwing whole oats in there, so if you don't have a high-speed blender, you'd probably want to use quick oats, or you just have to blend it for a longer period of time. So this calls for one banana, 1 cup of oats, and I think, let's see what we've got here. I'm shy of a cup of oats, so that's okay because I actually have in the pantry some oat bran, and this is something I don't usually buy. Let's see, oat bran, but it was on sale at my co-op because I think they were trying to get rid of it, so I picked it up, and it's just oats that have been finely chopped up, basically. So I'm going to top this off with that. So we have our 1 cup of oats, and it calls for a cup of water. And depending on the size of your banana, you might have to add a little less water. You might have to add a little more water because you want this to be nice pancake batter consistency. So we're going to do a 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. And really these are optional. You don't have to put these in, but it's what gives, it's what helps the pancakes to rise a little bit. And they don't rise a lot. They're not super fluffy. Okay, because the only grain they have in them is the oats. And then some vanilla. And I usually do about a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. And that's it. So we're going to blend this. It's going to be a little loud. More water because I like it to be a little bit on the thin side, and then I let it sit for just a minute and it kind of thickens up and settles down a little bit. But what we're going to be doing today is because I have some of these blueberries I want to finish up, I'm going to be throwing those in there as well. And so when you make your blueberry pancakes, you want to just go ahead and pour out your pancakes and then kind of top your blueberries in there. And then, and I'm just going to be eating these with maple syrup today. Some of you can't do maple syrup, so you can omit that. They're still great, especially if you put some blueberries in there. You can top them with some applesauce or some almond butter, or like a mango puree is really, really good if you're avoiding syrup. But I buy this, I really like this brand. It's actually the Kirkland brand from my local Costco, and it's 100% pure maple syrup. It's organic, and it's a lot cheaper than most pure organic syrups. So, all right, that is already starting to thicken up a little bit. I'm just gonna go ahead. I've got my griddle hot and ready to go. I use a non-stick griddle, which I highly recommend when you're making pancakes, because you can just pour them on and let them cook. You don't have to worry about oiling a pan or things sticking. So usually when I make this, I'll pour out these little pancakes. I'll stack them up, and I'll eat them all if I'm hungry. And I am hungry today, and I'm getting ready to go for a bike ride, so I need to make sure I am fueled up. Don't break the cardinal sin of leaving pancake batter in your Vitamix. You want to rinse that out. All right, so I am just going to put a few of these blueberries in here. If you guys are new to making pancakes, the thing you want to remember is to have a hot griddle and to leave them on the griddle until you see lots of little bubbles forming. Don't flip it until you see lots of little bubbles. And you don't want to use frozen blueberries at this point because it will slow down the cooking time of your pancakes. So I always get impatient and just have to kind of check here, check the edges, see how we're doing, make sure it's not burning, and it's not. So we're just going to let that cook. I've got this at 375. You could even go probably a little bit hotter, but let's go ahead and jump into chapter 13 of the Plantar Reflux Cookbook. Remember, the cookbook is on Amazon, but I'm coming into this group every week and sharing recipes, so you don't even have to buy the cookbook if you just want to kind of try some of these recipes that I'm sharing. But what I want to talk about today is kind of along those lines, and that is that when it comes to plant-based cooking, here we go, it's chapter 12, excuse me, we're in chapter 12. When it comes to plant-based cooking, you can really alter just about any recipe. No, it won't be exactly the same as what you remember, but it might be really great, and it might even be better. So in chapter 12, I talk a little bit, the title is, What If I Really Miss a Particular Dish That Isn't Plant-Based? And I talk specifically about Mexican food. It's probably the easiest food to adapt to plant-based. And some of the suggestions that I gave were, instead of the meat, like cumin tacos or fajitas, or it doesn't matter what it is. It's, first of all, if you're doing plant-based, you're going to take out the meat, right? And so you can substitute with things like beans, you can substitute with things like mushrooms, you can substitute with tofu, tempeh, TVP, which is a protein, a glutinous protein mixture. I don't use it very often. My husband really likes it, but I don't have any to show you. But there are a lot of substitutes for meat if you want to substitute. I usually use just beans and mushrooms in my Mexican dishes, or sometimes I eliminate it altogether. And personally, I don't miss it. But I've been vegan for several years, so everybody's going to be different as far as that goes. But then there's the cheese. And I do have a cheese sauce recipe in the cookbook. I've shared it with you before a couple of weeks ago. It's great. It's a thick and cheesy, rich, decadent sauce that you can pour over, burritos, a lot of things really. Macaroni and cheese, fettuccine. You can use it for a pizza sauce. But it's great with Mexican dishes. or you can buy vegan cheese. Now there aren't many vegan cheeses that I like. I do like Miyoko's. I've got some Miyoko's mozzarella actually in the refrigerator right now for pizza. So I do occasionally buy that. So there are things that you can replace it or you can eliminate it. You can use things like nutritional yeast, which has kind of a cheesy, powdery flavor to it to put on top of your dishes to give it more of that cheese flavor. Is it the same as stretchy, cheesy, salty mozzarella, you know, something like that? No, it's not. So there is an adaptation phase that you need to go through. So yeah, you take out the beans, you take out the cheese, and then, you know, tomatoes are also something that we don't eat on this particular challenge, the plant reflux challenge. So you can replace tomatoes with things like corn or carrots, really just to give it more texture and color in your dish. Do they taste like tomatoes? No, of course not. But you're really just you're taking one thing out and you're putting something else in that's going to be possibly equally as good. So if you can see this, I don't think you can, but I've got lots of little holes in my pancakes. So I'm going to go ahead and give them a flip. They're sticking a little bit. I let them probably cook a little too long. Oh, the joys of live cooking demos. Uh-oh. There we go. Yeah, that one really stuck. I'm trying to get this guy. Come on, help the girl out. That one's really stuck. There we go. Stuck good at the end along the edges. Yeah. So normally when I do this, I kind of baby them and make sure the edges aren't sticking as they're cooking. I did not do that today. And we have pancakes stuck to our nonstick griddle. There we go. All right. That wasn't too bad. Wasn't too bad. Okay, so I'm going to turn this down a little bit, and these need to continue to cook for about another 5 minutes because this batter is, it's not as fluffy as your traditional like pancake batter where it's going to really rise up and create a lot of air pockets in there so it can really equally cook. So it's a little bit denser. It's a denser pancake batter. But what you're going to have is a nice kind of a crisp outside and a really moist inside, and you throw on your syrup and it's just a really, really wonderful treat. So we're going to let that cook. I did turn it down just a little bit to 325. But getting back to chapter 12 and replacing certain foods, we talked about replacing tomatoes with corn and carrots. You can replace onion with fennel. Now, I really like fennel. I like to chop it up raw and put it, I have in certain salads that I make, like a Waldorf salad. But I know some people use it as a replacement for onions. It doesn't taste anything like onions, but it's just something new and different that you can try. So I end this chapter saying, like anything worth doing in life, it can take some practice, and that's okay. And that's the thing you need to remember about plant-based eating is there is going to be trial and error, most likely. I mean, some people just jump right in and they do great and they have no issues and they love the food, but others really struggle. They really struggle. It can take some people longer than others to really begin to transform and create that new, fresh palate that really appreciates and notices the subtle flavors of plant foods. But the other thing I mentioned in the chapter is just to really explore the internet because, you know, my book I think has 35 recipes in it, but there's millions and millions and millions of vegan recipes. And so you can start with a vegan recipe. Just Google, like maybe your favorite dish is Italian lasagna. And you're like, that's something you would never eat as a person with reflux. So Google vegan Italian lasagna and see what comes up. And then go through that recipe and be like, oh, tomatoes, well, I can't have that. You know, ground beef, I can't have that. Oh, you know, these spices, I can't have those. And go through and cross those out and figure out what you can replace those with. What can you replace those with? So I actually didn't include lasagna in this cookbook. I do have a vegan lasagna recipe. I did include the tomato sauce in my cookbook that doesn't have tomatoes in it. This tomato sauce that I have in here, it's got beets and carrots and celery. You cook them all up, you on the stovetop, you put it in your blender and you blend it, and you put some Italian seasoning in there and some salt, and it really does taste a lot like tomato sauce. And when you're putting it into something like lasagna or on a pizza, most people won't even notice that there's no tomatoes in that sauce. So there are ways that you can adapt your favorite recipes. They may not be exactly the same, but you might be surprised at how delicious they really are. And because they're plant-based and because they eliminate those trigger foods, you're going to have the bonus of feeling better when you eat that food. You're going to have the bonus, maybe, depending on the person, of being able to eat maybe a larger portion and not feeling bad afterwards. You know what I mean? When we like indulge in our favorite food and then we maybe have seconds and thirds and we feel like crap because we just ate too much. On a plant-based diet, you can do that, but it's a little bit harder. You have to eat a really large volume of food to where you kind of start to feel weighed down or maybe bloated, depending on the person. But particularly when you're eliminating things like meat and cheese, especially cheese, you're not going to have that, oh, I feel so crappy feeling after you eat a large meal, or oh, I feel so exhausted after you eat a large meal, because your digestive system doesn't have to go into overdrive to digest these simple plant foods. When you throw a bunch of cheese into it, because you ate 6 pieces of cheese pizza, your digestive system has to go into overdrive in order to really get to work and do the job that's required to deal with that cheese. If you're eating a pizza with no cheese on it, that doesn't happen. If it's, you've got, as long as you're not sensitive to, gluten. So yeah, it's really just a matter of, I'm just peeking at these to see if they're burning. They're not. It's really just a matter of taking the time to challenge yourself a little bit, explore a little bit, experiment a little bit, and not be afraid that, oh, this recipe isn't going to taste exactly like the way I made it, or the way my mom made it, or the way my grandma made it, and therefore it's no good. You've got to overcome that mentality. Just because something isn't the same doesn't mean it's not good. Take these pancakes, for example. I mean, these don't even look they don't even look that appetizing. That one looks pretty good over there, but the rest of them kind of got busted. But they don't look like, when you go into IHOP and you get this stack of fluffy, golden, pancakes. No, they're not the same. It's different. It's different. But I am going to enjoy every single bite. Trust me, I will enjoy every single bite of this. It will be no different than if I was at that IHOP eating that short stack of fluffy golden pancakes. Because they will taste delicious, and because they're going to make me feel great, and they're going to give me lots of fuel for my bike ride, and I'm not going to feel sick afterwards. So these are done. I'm going to go ahead and plate them up. I might let these cook a little bit longer, but I think they're okay. I'm going to go ahead. We have our blueberries. Yeah, these probably could cook a little bit longer, but because I let them get lots of holes during the first side cook, they're gonna be cooked throughout. They might be a little doughy on the inside. So keep that in mind when you guys try this recipe. If you're really concerned about them being too doughy, and you don't like that, I kind of like that. I like that moist, kind of almost a little bit of cooked and a little bit of raw inside the pancake. I don't mind it at all. But if you don't like that, make sure that you cook these until there's a lot of holes on them before you flip them. All right, so where are we go? Tiny kitchen. Hope everybody's doing well today. It's been hot here where I live in the last couple of days. I'm just going to put a little bit of syrup on here. Show you guys this. I'm just going to cut right into it. like so. Let's show you guys. Is that focusing? Not really. Dripping syrup. It's not going to focus, is it? Does that look good? It's perfect. It's just the way I like it. All right. Okay, so that's it for today. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I didn't see any questions or comments today, so if you guys do have questions and comments, try to post them when I go live. If you can't be here when I go live, that's fine too. You can post them in the plantar reflux group. I noticed there's a lot of a little bit of activity among the people in there, and that's great. I really I think that's great. And I do go in there and answer questions occasionally, but when I see other people dialoguing and kind of engaging with each other, that was kind of the whole point of the group, so I'm really happy to see that. So I hope you'll continue to do that. You can post your pictures of any recipes that you make from the cookbook in the Plantar Reflux Facebook support group, and your questions as well. All right, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.